Aloha class, I wanted to do a video for problem 3-14A. So we're contrasting ABC and conventional product costs. So conventional product costs would be that one predetermined overhead rate, while ABC will have multiple cost pools, multiple activity rates. And yeah, so the company's is seeing a declining in profits because of this introduction of the deluxe model. And so maybe their costs are skewed if they're using a traditional, conventional costing system where there's one predetermined overhead rate. Maybe they need more accurate costs by using activity-based costing. So they have an estimated of 2 million, right? 2 million overhead costs and 5,000 units for the deluxe model, 40,000 units for the regular model. It's going to require 1.6 hours of direct labor time per unit, and the regular model will require 0.8 hours. Materials and labor costs per unit are given below. And overhead is applied to products on the basis of direct labor hours. That will be our allocation base. So if we're using one plant-wide overhead rate, to do a predetermined overhead rate, remember we need a total estimated manufacturing overhead divided by our allocation base, which they said was direct labor hours. They told us it was 2 million for the overhead, total overhead, but again, they didn't tell us the total direct labor hours. So to calculate the total direct labor hours, we're going to need to figure out it in a total. They told us on a per unit basis how much every unit will cost us in hours, and then they told us the number of units that they would be making. So we can times these together like we did in 3-4. So they're going to need 8,000 hours to produce 5,000 deluxe products and 32,000 hours to produce 40,000 regular products. So remember, for our allocation base, this needs to be a total for the whole factory. Since they only have those two products, the total, we could sum those up and have a total direct labor hours, right? So we could sum up the 8,000 and the 32,000. So we have total direct labor hours. So now we will calculate our predetermined overhead rate. Total dollar amount divided by hours. It's $50 per direct labor hour. Every single hour they use will cost them $50 as they're making the products. But remember that we're trying to fill out this cost sheet, which includes direct material, direct labor, actuals, and then manufacturing overhead applied for a single unit. Remember, this says a single unit in the problem given. It said, in the problem it said a single unit, right? Compute the predetermined overhead rate. We did that. Compute the unit product cost for 1 unit. So unit product cost would include the direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead on a per unit basis. So 1 unit would cost me 1.6 direct labor hours. So if it's 1.6, I know it's going to be over $50 for overhead, and it's going to be less than $50 for this regular product. So let's put in that predetermined overhead rate of $50. And times it together. So it'll cost me $80 and $40 per unit of manufacturing overhead applied, right? For a single unit of deluxe, $80, single unit of regular overhead applied for that. And so I've kind of just highlighted where these numbers are coming from, right? So the screen is from above, the predetermined overhead rate is the blue one, and then we'll put in that manufacturing overhead because we need our direct materials, direct labor, manufacturing overhead. So, and we can sum these up. You can see that sum formula. We're going to sum those up, and that's our unit product cost if we're using a conventional costing system. So we can see that the higher, or the lower units, right, are costing a higher amount of overhead. Interesting. And then these higher units are costing, the same amount. Half of the amount. So maybe our costs could be fine. Maybe they're not fine. But it could be not allocated correctly if this is using just one plant-wide overhead rate. But our total unit costs would be $246 and $160 total unit cost for our deluxe product and for our regular product. So that's your solution for question number 1. Number 2, an intern suggests that you use activity-based costing. A team was formed to investigate this idea, and they came up with these estimate dollar amounts for each of these activities, and then the activity for the deluxe, activity for the regular, and activity for the total, right? So we have to do like a predetermined overhead rate for each activity. So a total dollar amount divided by a total activity base, right? So this is a number of orders. The denominator would be the number of requests on a total basis. So for the first part of calculating activity rates, you need to ignore this, how much each of these actually use up, so we can get our activity rates, and then after we get our activity rates, then we can allocate this cost out, right? So this 84, a third of it will go to deluxe and 2/3 of it will go to regular. Yeah, so compute the activity rates for each activity. Let's do that first. First things first, right? Activity rates, a total dollar amount divided by a total activity. Total activity. So a total dollar amount would be the $84,000 divided by, oh, do we have a total? I don't think I have a total here. Excuse me. Oh, the total, we would 1,200, 900, 15,000. Let's make sure we have that total. And maybe I'll continue this into the next video.